Hi, I'm Rebecca Bradley. This is the Virtual Crime Book Club. It is Monday, the 13th of April 2026. Today we are discussing I Am Pilgrim by Terry Hayes. Excuse me. Um, there will be full spoilers, so if you are watching this as a catch-up video and are only part way through or haven't read the book and think you might want to stop and come back to it later. Because we will discuss everything, including the ending. Um, Has everybody read the full book? Because it is a dense book. It's a
Yes.
large book, yeah.
I
Um,
read it a few years ago, so I'm not sure what I'll remember, but I remember how I felt about it.
right, okay. Hi, Clark. We've only just started. I haven't done the first question yet. Have you finished it, Clark? Before we start, okay, brilliant. So, did you enjoy the book or not?
Yes.
Who enjoyed it?
Just to say that I did not finish it. I just read like, I don't know, 16% or 15%, but I decided to join because I want to know how it ends. I wasn't motivated to read the rest because it's very long. And I don't know, there was something about this
It
guy.
ends the way you expect it to end, Vera.
Really? No, but I want to know all the details. So I'm like, I'm joining. I cannot be bothered to read the rest, but
No,
I'll.
it is one of the larger books we've read, I think. In fact, I think it's probably the largest.
But it's just because the guy it annoyed me from the start because he's like this American guy that is going around pretending to be like the good guy, saving the world, and everybody else is bad. And because of everything is going on right now, I'm really like, bloody hell, it's not really
If this is
the
going
story.
toward against Americans, I'm going to have to leave. So I'm really not
It's
going to
not
do
against
that right
Americans.
now.
It's
Be
nothing.
political.
It's not against Americans, but
Well,
it's
I'm just
the
not in the mood for it with all that's going on.
We're not
So
going to
I'm
get
just seeing how it
political.
goes.
it's not political, but it's the way it's presented because it just at the beginning at least it just goes around and it's like everybody's bad and it's just going around and pulling these strings and doing all these secret operations. I know it's a spy thriller, so probably it's the intention. But I thought it was a bit okay.
How
It's
far
too
did you
much too
get?
long.
How far did you get into it, Vera? Where did you get up to?
No, I only cannot even tell. I read like 90 pages only.
What was happening at 90 pages?
He was telling the story of the Arab.
Right, okay.
So I gave up during the story of the Arab.
Yes, I can remember. Yes, yeah. I did the audio book. So, how long is the paper book?
600 pages about.
Oh, right, it's not as long
Mine's
as I
900.
I
Ugh.
I've got 300 extra pages in mine.
I
Took
did
me a
hear
very long
that
time
there
to
was a
read it. I
900
remember.
page.
Took me ages to get through it. That's why I didn't
Yeah.
want to reread it.
I started mine ages ago because I thought if this turns out to be rubbish, I mean, usually I'll just read a book the week before, but I thought I can't get away with that. If this turns out to be rubbish, it's going to take me weeks to read it.
Yes. We've just got somebody else joining, Jill, so I'll let her log in. Um,
I should have been wiser, like Clark. I did end up only reading it a week ago.
and have you finished it?
I finished it all of like 5 hours ago,
Wow.
just in time.
Wasn't fat. Are you late at night or early in the morning to us?
Depends what you call it, right? Exactly about there.
So you've had a late night.
It's all right. I finished it. I was determined.
Yes, okay.
But I
Um,
will say it didn't make it I mean it wasn't captivating enough to be a page turner from the start. So it was more determination than the page turner that got me through the end.
so you thought it improved as it went on?
Not quite. I just think that throughout it was not quite a
It wasn't what you expected a spy thriller to be.
maybe it just I mean I think I would compare it. lengthwise, okay? Not genre-wise to I don't know if anyone's read like Robert Galbraith's books, J.K. Rowling's other, in terms of length. And I was trying to think what the difference was, and I think it was that in the other book I was a lot more attached to the characters. They were more developed in a way that yeah, I think I was just very attached to them. And this one, maybe it was just a few characters, or the way it was, I wasn't feeling that connection that led me to keep going on and reading various accounts that helped to build up, knowing that it was not necessarily going to be many, mini tipping points. But yeah.
This book reminded, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go on. I was going to ask somebody else's thoughts.
This book reminded me of books that were published in the 90s and the early aughts, The Bourne Identity, things like that. So it was a real action adventure thriller. I had less trouble reading it than I thought because it was basically an action thriller book. So it just kept on leading on from one thing to another. And it's interesting. I wonder, I used to enjoy those books 20 odd years ago, and I wonder if I would have enjoyed this book more when it came out. Now it seemed, even though the topics were timely, it seemed a little bit dated in some way. And I don't know if other people found it that way. Um, but it's very timely because it's the same part of the world that there's a lot of activity. There was a plague, and we've been through COVID, and I wonder how much COVID, having lived through COVID, also influenced me in reading this book.
I mean,
So,
I read it when it did come out.
mhm.
So maybe it was 10 years ago, I think, about.
I think it was 2014.
Yeah, so that's why I had to remember what like I said, I remember I liked it, took me a long time, but it was more time, like more current then. I think I would think it'd be more dated if you read it now. I would think so. Because the time of, the decade.
Yeah. I don't know how old, because you, Ellen, said that it felt a little bit dated. I don't know how old Terry Hayes was and whether the Bourne Identity was a big influence for him or not.
Well, he's older, I think. We may be the same age. So it that may have been one of his influences. I don't know. It just struck me that way when I read the book, and how he. But I didn't love the book, but I didn't find it a slog. So, and even though there were some, coincidences, the way that the story developed, I was willing to go along with it. And I thought that the quality of his writing was better, just in terms of words, vocabulary, sentence structure, etc. So I thought it was a better for what it was. I would have considered it an airplane read. I thought it was okay.
If you were on a very long flight, though.
Right.
Have
Are
to
there any others?
go around the globe a couple of times.
Yes. Yeah. I did the audiobook and I started it when I'd got a long journey, a couple of hours each way, because I knew that it was going to take me a while. I think it was something like 24 hours on the audiobook. But I listened to it on 1.7 speed, my audiobooks. So that dropped it down to about 14 hours to do. But yeah.
Do they have a very high-pitched voice, Rebecca, when you play them at that speed?
No, they're just quite fast.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
was a screenwriter. I think he wrote the Mad Max movies.
Did he? I knew that he was a
Screenwriter.
screenwriter, but I didn't know what he'd done. I hadn't researched
I
him.
think I think you're right, because the last thing I read was the acknowledgements at the end, and it did mention this, and it also put things in perspective for me because it really did feel like a movie, how things were being described. Most recently, I think I watched was a TV series, Jack Reacher, something like that. And I felt like the last parts, the scenes, everything was really described like a show. And then when I got to the acknowledgement, I was like, okay, this makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
I think it's been in discussion to be a film since the book came out, and it's not happened. But it might have been his intention as a screenwriter to write his first novel, that maybe it would be a movie.
Oh. I didn't
He's-
realize I didn't come out because it was in the acknowledgements that somebody was looking into the film rights and, working on that. Yeah.
Yes, he has sold the rights and he's waiting for it.
Yeah,
But
they call it
there have been a
production
lot of
hell, don't
problems.
they?
Oh.
I think that kind of world does take a long time, and people change, so tastes change of the people buying it and producing it. I know they take a long time.
It can't
Um,
be easy to produce a film from a 900-page book. I mean,
mm,
you have to leave out 2/3 of it.
yeah, and the structure as well. What did you make of the structure of the book? Because we started with a murder, but then we
I,
went
I was never sure
backwards,
how the murder fitted with
and then we went forwards.
yeah. I was never sure how the murder fitted with the rest of the book. And even when it was explained to me, I thought, well, was there really an awful lot of point in that murder being in there?
But how does it fit? I'm looking forward to know.
I think
I'm
it's
not going to
because
read it, but I want
he
to know.
uses an investigation into the murder as a cover story to go to Turkey, when what he's really trying to do is find out what this terrorist plot is about.
So it's a terrorist plot. Okay.
But I could be wrong.
No,
Murder.
that it wasn't that murder that he went to Turkey for. He went to Turkey because some rich dude like Elon Musk level had died. So he went to investigate that. The murder of the woman in New York turned out to be the person who had killed the woman in the apartment was the person who had killed the rich guy.
That's what I just
Well,
said.
she
Yes,
wasn't
but
That's what I just said.
it,
No, yeah, he didn't go to solve the murder of the East Side murder. He went there the cover was to solve the.
Yeah, I don't think he didn't realize they were connected, did
Hmm.
he?
You're right. Yeah.
that whole thing, I wonder if he was going to make it a series because he has the New York detective. Was that Bradley?
Bradley.
And so it was a way of introducing his whole backstory and where he was coming from, because he needed him just as he needed the Japanese bot boy. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. And but so he could have constructed the plot a little bit differently. That whole murder could have been presented to him, and then he would have had, because that was a lot of pages, and I was wondering where this was going to go and everything else. And I was thinking, oh, this person who's been murdered in New York is somehow going to be related, to the plot, to whatever that plot was going to be, to destroy the world. And it really didn't have anything to do with it, except for to give him that opportunity to go to Turkey, where he had incidentally had been before. But that's another thing, Vera.
I got a bit frustrated because I was interested in the murder. So at the beginning, I liked it, the way he described the murder, all of that. You wrote the book, and now there was this perfect murder. So I like that bit.
I think
But
the murder
then-
was more interesting than the terrorism
But then
plot.
it was lots of plots, because it was in Germany. Then he killed his boss in Germany because he was betraying the Americans. But then he goes, I don't know where. And then it all became very confusing. Maybe not confusing, but it was like lots of plots. And I was like, where is the murder? And why is not Jesse?
And then he has the childhood and his adoption, And
Yeah, he also says, and then the story of the detective. But I like the story of the detective, even his adoption, everything was fine, but I like the murder aspect better. Okay, it was a spy thriller, I understand that. But I liked murder better than all the spy things because there were lots of different stories. And I was like, okay, I have already like 3 or 4 different plots, and it's still like page 100. So how many more? So, like,
I like I
many,
like
many.
I like my spy stories to be more ambiguous, more morally ambiguous. You know, I think spies exist in a fairly murky world. You know, for me, this was too sort of black and white. Too,
yeah.
it was quite James Bondish in some way,
Yeah.
especially the kind of action scenes were very James Bondish, to the point of just being silly sometimes. I thought. I
But
mean,
that's maybe because it's true. Maybe he wanted to make a movie because it's true. Some bits were like really an action movie where you clearly have
But
the good
he
guys
didn't
and the
want to
bad
make the
guys.
movie himself. It was somebody else who
Uh,
suggested it. So I don't think it was his intention in the beginning. But
He has
it's true.
done quite a lot of screenwriting, and I take what you said. It says at the front he's done lots of screenwriting and film writing, and I think it came across like he couldn't help himself but write it
it was
in
very
that
sort of
way.
it was very sort of superheroes versus supervillains,
Yeah,
I felt.
yeah.
And when I was going through the Born Identity series and books like that, I did listen to them on tape. I was really busy at the time, and I would told people that's the perfect kind of book because there's lots of action. It's okay if you are distracted and you miss part of it. And then, but in the end, the hero is always going to make it through. So you don't have to worry about the hero. And then there'll be some collateral damage and some other people will die. And so with this book, it was like, oh, good. So you don't have to worry, Vera. The hero makes it through. He's alive and a little battered, but he comes through. So
I guess that he was telling the story. I guess he will be alive, but I was like, so many plots. Okay, I know I lost my motivation, and there were like, lots of very good guys, very bad guys. Everything was like really clear, which is not in the real world. So
I
I
put
didn't
it
think
down
it was
and
so
picked it
black and
up
white.
over a long period of time. So, Vera, I understand why you would give up because I had given up here and there and then picked it up when I had nothing to read. And then I kind of got momentum later. And this is 2014. So, and maybe I finished it 2015. I don't remember. So I was glad though. The hero won and I was happy in the end. I was happy I finished it.
I was very close to giving up because there was the murder, and then we went to the murder of the father and the child seeing it, and I just wondered how everything was going to marry up. But I was glad in the end that I stuck with it. One of the members that emailed me to apologise, to give apologies for not coming tonight, gave the reason that it was very anti-Muslim. How did you pick up on that? Did you feel that?
I wondered about that, but I think that, and I thought about it, but I think that in spy stories, especially, I mean, it's different. A crime book is quite different because it's sort of individuals, but in a spy story, it's often nation versus nation because that's what spies do. They're employed by nations. So somehow, if you're writing something like this, I think you do have to have, the sort of good nation and bad nation, or good group and bad group. But I can certainly see how you could think of it as being, very, very trope filled. For example, the way that Europe is portrayed was I found it quite offensive at times, because the Europe was portrayed quite often as this place that had kind of naively allowed all these immigrants to appear, and somehow that was, that therefore we were, reaping the whirlwind kind of thing. So I thought you could quite easily think of it as being anti-Muslim. Absolutely, yes.
Do we think that it came
or at
across
least very simplistic, yeah.
Yeah.
as a character, as a purposeful character personality or thoughts, or did it just feel generalized as the book? Because you can have, for instance, you can have a racist character, but it just be pertaining to the thought processes of that character.
Well, it did go into his
Um,
history, the Saracen, of why he was that way, which was a troubled childhood. I
Mm.
think the father was beheaded or
yeah.
something there as he
Hanged.
was experienced trauma. So this is what he became, which unfortunately a lot of terrorists are. They have traumatized
Mm.
countries that they're from and they see things, whatever. I don't want to go into that. So, I mean, there was that.
But I don't know if I read a lot of different things, and I don't know if I would call it anti-Muslim because he chose the Saracen as his the bad guy here. That, and it's interesting because the story is really about someone who is, and I don't want to use the word fundamentalist, but he's very faithful to his religion. And so the fight is really the people that remember, he wants to get back at the Saudis who executed his father, and who he sees as not being faithful um, to their religious doctrines. And so it was interesting, and he chose the way he chose to do it is, because of the plot, to make the book exciting and to introduce all the stuff about genes and smallpox and everything else. But it's interesting, and I was thinking about it, and when we chose this book, it seemed like it was
It
years
was a
ago.
while, yeah.
It was a while back, and a lot has happened since then. And so I'm going to talk about current affairs, but I'm not going to get political here. I hope is that within the Middle East, there's Dubai was in the news a lot, and I just had some friends that just got back from there just afterwards, and the money and the it's like, I haven't been to Dubai, but I've known a lot of people who had, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just like a, millionaire playground. And so I was thinking, if this book were set today, he might be even more upset because these particular countries that are, these political countries are organized, are allowing a lot of things that are antithetical to his faith. And so I didn't really, I could substitute, you know a different religion, a different country, a different whatever, and use the same plot. And so I don't know. It was interesting to me, and I think that kind of got away in the story. He mentioned that he had a big buildup about his father, and then it gets kind of crazy because he decides to, attack the Americans, et cetera, or the United States, et cetera. But as we know, it's going to affect the whole world. It's not going to be limited to that. It's just going to spread faster, because of the mobility.
Yeah, Vera, the way that he goes to attack the country is
It's a virus.
Irish, yeah. One
Okay,
of the
that
things
I
that
understood from your talk.
one of the things I didn't understand was his anger towards the US because it was the
Yeah,
Saudis that had killed his father,
I could never
and,
understand that either.
and then
Yeah.
his mother was denigrated because she was
Mm.
husbandless and her husband had done this thing that they didn't agree with. And then was it just simply because he went to ideological leaning that way church rather than because of the childhood, which would have potentially made him more susceptible.
I think it was a compounding factor. So because of the childhood, for example, that pushed him to a certain route, a way of thinking. And then I feel like it was the whole idea of the Far West that his wife, kind of propagated. And I think it was also mentioned that one of the main things was the Far West supporting Israel and how getting the United States on its knees would help. I mean, or would ultimately result in the fall of Israel and then the turnover event. So yeah, it was quite specific, and I also thought actually the references to 9/11 and by name Osama bin Laden, for example, tried to make it actually intentionally link with current affairs. Sometimes we read books and it's more like a mention of a plague, and we're like, okay, well, in this case, not necessarily leaning towards COVID, but in this case, terrorism in general. There was a direct intention to link it to world affairs, I felt, by using the non-fictional names of
Yeah, there was so much information in it. It was easy to miss bits.
I thought it was more general, though, in terms of he wanted to strike back at the United States because they were a corrupting secular influence. And because of money, mobility, whatever, is that there would be a greater impact if it affected the United States rather than going directly after Saudi Arabia. And it's like any war or crime or anything. When I discuss it with people, it's like I can't imagine what was going through his mind. So it's kind of hard to explain what the author was trying to do. But I think this was a more basic book. I don't think there were any messages here or whatever. It was really, there were the good guys and the bad guys. And that's what it was. And maybe I've never seen Mad Max or whatever, but I'm assuming, that's what it's like. There's good guys and bad guys.
But I love Mad Max. But for me, this book at the beginning, I cannot be fair because I only read a bit, so I can only assess what I read. But for me, it was very simplistic. I think the reality is much more nuanced, and the spy world, I think, is much more nuanced. I don't read that many spy thrillers, but it's very also the spies. they have a code of conduct, but sometimes they do things that are not really very morally sound, I guess. And I thought this was too like, okay, these guys are really bad. We are really the good guys. These guys are really bad. And so, yeah, I don't know. For me, it was a bit, it tried to simplify too much the reality. Of course, it's a fiction. It's of course the objective is not to portray reality but yeah.
There were only a couple of women in this, and how did you feel about it being particularly male-led? Or was it not noticeable?
I thought it was very noticeable. Yeah, very. I just kind of think, well, I'm not having dinner with him.
There were no female spies that he seemed to have come across in his career, and there was a lot of talk of his whole life within the book, and he didn't once come across a female spy.
No, he came across a wicked stepmother, though.
He did.
It was quite tropey in
You'd
those
got-
ways,
yeah.
but you kind of just go, well, I suppose there's a good way to use tropes, I suppose, in that way, is that you're never under any illusion that you're reading anything real. So you can kind of roll along with it, can't you, really? It was and therefore when you come across things like the political system that they talk about, and it's I found for me it was so Marvel cartoon kind of thing, that it was really easy to just go, no, this is real. So yeah, she's got like a dress split up to her thigh, and the word boobs applies here more often than not. But that's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
Because it was the same level as I felt, the same level as the rest of the book, really.
Was it before the Me Too movement?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah,
I was a little
gosh.
old.
This was
But
this
yeah.
this
But
was
I would think in 2014, would be aware. But now it's really women spies and women, even anti-heroes are really popular. It's different
Yeah.
now. Like the heroes and they're badass now. And so maybe it was just pre Me Too a little bit. Or he's old-fashioned.
Yeah.
That's how
I
it
don't
came
know.
across, didn't it?
The other spy book we read, it was a woman, right? I like that one. We
Oh,
read a spy book, and it was a woman. She was a spy.
which one?
Was it the
I don't remember.
Tom Bradbury?
Ah, yeah, it was that one. I like that one.
I like
Oh,
that one.
I like that one. It was good.
Yeah, it was part of a series. Yeah, I enjoyed that. But that is a new one. And definitely not before.
Yeah, but she was really, she was not a perfect spy. She
No.
had lots of flaws. She was morally a bit, I don't know the word, but I like that one.
We love flaws in our heroes.
No, of course, I like when they are like they are not certain that they are all good. Like
It
there
makes
are
them
some doubts.
human.
Yeah, there are
None
some
of us are
doubts if they
perfect,
are
are we?
really doing the good.
Yeah. Clark mentioned something earlier about somebody was morally ambiguous. How do we feel about the depiction of our heroes doing something bad for the greater good?
Mm. Was it? Is if he was being a spy, kind of gives license for that. I don't know whether that's particular to spy novels, but for me, that's how I, in my fiction choices, that's where I'd go.
Right at the end, he asked Ben Bradley to take that child, didn't he? So he could leverage the Saracen. And Ben Bradley was like, I'm not doing that until he was told that if you don't do that, then we're going to have a plague that wipes out half the world. At which point he then said, yeah, okay, it's acceptable that we do this. How did it feel reading that? Is it acceptable to torture a child?
I think there was this one line
Not the
that
easiest of questions.
yeah, I think there was this one line. Overall, the theme, I maybe, was like, okay, it's fine, it's a movie kind of vibe, until there was a one line where Ben Bradley was described to have been thinking he felt bad, but at the end of the day, it was one life versus the life of so many. So that was very explicit in comparing how that made it okay or justifiable. So that line stuck out. Now that I think about it, yeah, it was. Oh, okay. I don't know how I feel about that messaging, but yes.
I think it was particularly brutal the way he did it. He didn't just like have a video of the having the child, but he actually had him stood on his nanny's shoulders with a noose around his neck. It was pretty grim, Vera. And I just thought, oh, that I don't know whether that I could have imagined Ben Bradley doing that. I mean, this is the hero that walked down the Twin Towers with.
67 flaws.
He's a black man. He's an American. there's no secret about the history of lynching in the United States.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. Is the author American? My book said he lived in Switzerland.
I don't know.
And I thought that that was really, if that was, some of what he wanted that contrast. Here's a man who has this in his heritage, and and he's being asked to sanction it. It was for any other thing, they could have had, done something else to show the child being threatened, holding a gun to his head or something like that. But the noose, it was like, ooh. And
Yeah.
the other thing that bothered me about that part was, do we ever know the name of the boy?
No.
And that really bothered me. And I wondered what, it was that so that for that he wouldn't be emotionally attached to that person, or was it supposed to represent the children of the world? So it's, this particular boy. But when you talk about the male versus female characters, it's even that child was a male child, and that the women, the two main women characters, and this was sort of an interesting. There was a lesbian and a bisexual woman, and it was sort of interesting, except for Ben Bradley's wife, who seems to be a very normal person. And yeah, it was a really kind of a smorgasbord of characters and tropes and plot points.
The writer, it says, is Australian, but he was born in the UK, in England. He was born in England.
Sussex.
So it says he's Australian
Or
and
Essex.
British. But
And his wife's American.
But I don't think you need to be American to know the
no,
history
I don't know
of.
where he lives, but it says he's an Australian screenwriter, blah, blah, blah. But he was born in England.
Yeah.
So he's
I don't
Australian,
think you need to
British.
be American to know the history of
No, yeah.
lynching in the US. So yeah, it'd be interesting to know if it was a deliberate choice in that manner. But with the women, you also had the three kidnapped people that he tested the virus on, and it was the woman who was the one he made to suffer the most with it.
And she was pregnant.
She was. He really was a bit brutal with his
I
characters.
thought there was. I mean, you get used in crime books to people being killed, but I thought there was some significant nastiness at points in this book, actually.
Mm.
The eyeball.
Like Gillian said, the woman didn't need to have been pregnant, but she was pregnant.
Mm.
And the kid at the end as well, that I don't know if we had a name. Did his mother ever call him anything?
Oh, I think it was always just he referred to him as the little guy. And I
Yeah.
mean, he had Down syndrome. So yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah, he wasn't just a little kid, was he? He had Down
He was
syndrome.
vulnerable, even as a
Yeah,
child. He was
yeah.
vulnerable. Isn't that not I mean, I don't know this, but is that not a clever sort of writing tool to not get completely cancelled? If you don't give somebody or a character a name, the reader's still just one step further back from them. So therefore you can talk to them and hang them, and people get one grade less angry.
I don't know, but I'm not sure cancelled was a thing in 2014, was it?
No, okay, no.
But I know you're not supposed to be able to do this stuff to dogs, are you? And for some reason, I've read a couple of books or seen some shows where the dog's got it lately. It's like people have just decided,
Hang the dog.
yeah,
I was just thinking that, like, you don't dare torture a dog people, it's worse than a human.
Yeah.
Then lately I've seen that. What was I don't know what it was.
I don't know what I watched recently, but there was something, and the dog.
Probably
Yeah,
the same thing.
and the dog was actually killed, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think it was one of our book club books,
Mhm.
the
It
Nordic
was
one.
It was a Nordic, the
Mhm.
Har
Yeah.
murders. They killed the
Okay.
dog, but everybody dies.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
also the dog. Nobody survives in that book.
Yeah, it was that one. We are knocking on a little bit. What time are we at? 1:45. So the what did everybody think about the way it wrapped up? We had the Pilgrim and Saracen in the cave and the child in the house with Ben Bradley. Um, what did we think about the way that it wrapped up? Were we satisfied?
The world was saved.
It was
What,
expected.
boy, what do you want for a novel?
Yeah, yeah. And nobody expected him to go back. I mean, he was always just kind of a nomad and, described it that way. But I agree with Clark, especially in terms of the last part, the physical agony described was very specific about the tendons and the ligaments and all of it. And it was very gory. I definitely had to try and skim a little bit of that. It was very detailed.
Mm.
I was almost like, how much research do you have to do for this? I'm so confused. Yeah.
I thought the action parts of this book were sort of weirdly different from the rest of the. I mean, in a sense, it was the rest of the book that I enjoyed most, the kind of spy procedural bits. The action bits they were the bits that were really over the top for me. The rest of it was much more believable, actually.
100% agree. Yes.
Mm.
It felt a little bit like a weird mashup between a thriller with the action and the spying and a literary novel with the way he went into depth about his childhood. It would just go off meandering for a bit on um, his home life and the evil stepmom and things he did with his adoptive dad. And so and then he would meander somewhere else. And it just kind of felt like this mashup between literary and then thriller,
Mm.
depending on which chapter you were reading. Did
And,
anybody else feel that
and there wasn't a
meandering
huge
was?
amount there wasn't actually a huge amount of action in it. It was mainly spy
Yes.
procedural, but
Yes.
the action stuff was so over the top, it kind of dominated your memory of this book, I think.
I like the spy procedural stuff. I thought I wanted more of that when I read
Yeah.
it. And some of the other stuff was like, I don't know, I wanted to get through it for more of the procedural
Mm.
stuff. So
You know, it's
there was
funny
a
when
lot.
you read
It
a
was a
book
lot,
about-
but yeah.
Oh, sorry. I often forget important details that later come up. And sometimes during our book club, then everyone's like, oh, yeah, there was this hint. And so we all knew this was coming. And I'm like, oh, I missed it,
Yeah.
But in this book, it was very funny because every time there was a hint, he would mention it
Yeah.
like in advance. So then the suspense was, how is this hint going to tie in rather than missing it? And I thought that was actually very interesting.
Mm. Yeah.
Mildly patronizing.
Mm.
Not untrue. Yes, yes.
But handy, yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to keep track through such a book,
Yeah.
There was one point where you didn't know if he was going to make it. When he found, I quite like the scenes where he was trying to get through to the White House and the president, and he actually said the words, "I am Pilgrim," and I quite like that bit of a scene where he's trying to get through, because that was, to me, that was the spy thing that I wanted. So I really liked, because Vera, he didn't have you speak. He had a direct line to the president, but if it's an unknown number, which it was, it goes through somebody else first, and he
Goes,
had to
goes to the president's voicemail.
yes, and he had to try and get through before the virus was already in the US and he had to stop. It was in vaccinations and they were about to start it in about 2 hours' time, the vaccination program, and he had to get through and get them to stop it. And he couldn't get through and had to speak to somebody else. And the words came out of his mouth, "I am Pilgrim." Um, and that was like the spy bit that I liked because it was proper spy stuff. Um, but then he walks away. Is that was that the right way to end the book, or did you want him to go back?
I
I
wanted
guess
him to
that's
go
what a
back
spy would
'cause,
do. They would just sort of
yeah.
slip through the cracks again. So I kind of like that, I think. Just go into like he was very nothing interesting, average. He'd just walk around like an average Joe after that,
Mm.
which is not like a James Bond slick character, kind of just average,
Mm.
which I think makes sense if you're a spy.
Because he'd left for a reason, hadn't he? What trauma had he gone through to make him leave in the first place?
Oh, Peter.
9/11, or that was Bradley.
That was Bradley.
Right.
What was he?
Yeah.
Was it the
Was it
thing in
9/11 though?
Turkey?
Yes, everything had changed after 9/11 for him.
Ah.
I think something with that. I don't remember exactly.
The way
No, I
he
think you're right, Rebecca. Yeah.
and the way they changed target
Mm.
after 9/11, I think
And
that's what he didn't like.
there was something too about I thought it had something, and there were so many different things that happened. Um, that the place where the final confrontation takes place, he knew that place from a prior spy operation, and the party that was there, and the tide comes in, or tide goes out and reveals these um, um, archaeological monuments or whatever. And I thought something happened when he had been there before, because when he has to go back, he said, "Oh, I have." There's the foreshadowing. Oh, I've been there before. That's where it all came. All went bad. But I can't remember what it was now.
One of his colleagues was killed, and
And
it
it was
was
That's
his
right,
fault,
and
wasn't
that
it was
and
it?
the
kind of partly
doctor,
his
and
fault,
that's
I think.
where. That's right. Mhm.
And the
Yes.
doctor couldn't save him.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
That's right,
Bodrum or
The
something.
Australian
Mm.
beach bum doctor. Yes.
Yeah, he was quite a funny character.
Yeah, I liked him. So then he just sailed off into the sunset at the end, I think, didn't he?
Mm. Mm. I thought that was he kind of got the mix of both worlds because I'm a happy ending kind of person, but I also knew he needed to sail off exactly what Laura said, like as a spy would to mix into the background. But then he kind of mentions this, but one day I knew I would go back and meet, Bellboy and Vera. He kind of hints that he is going to go back at some point and meet all the other characters. And so I feel like in that way it was a bit of a not really a cop out, but basically the author got both.
Well, I thought he was going to go after Dodge's murderer, the woman who now is a billionaire. That I really thought that was going to be the next book, and I did look. He's had written another book, but it didn't seem. I thought that would be a straight mystery, where he would track her down and just for to bring her to justice, but apparently not. But I would have liked to have read that book.
I also looked it up to see if the Year of the Locust was a follow-on for him, because it's classed as Pilgrim too, but it's nothing to do with him, is it? And I would have read it if it was him, but
I wanted to read it also at the time. This was waiting for the book to come out, maybe to continue, and I didn't want to read it.
no, no, it was kind of. I'm sure it says on Goodreads that it's Pilgrim too, but then
And
the blurb for it just mentions different characters and doesn't mention him at all. So,
I think
um,
that's the marketing department who are describing it as Pilgrim 2, I think.
Yeah, maybe it's just that kind of style that they're calling it Pilgrim for. Um, so would you re if it had have had a second book, would you read the next one?
At the time, I would have. I was looking for it,
Mm.
but I think whatever like we just said, didn't seem like it was going to be a sequel. And I think it was also a pretty big book, very
Hmm.
long, and I just don't have it in me sometimes
Mhm.
to read all that. And maybe I'm not in the mood for these kinds of books at the moment
Mm.
so much with what's going on. There's enough news, you get in the news, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
reading
reading is
real
a mood.
fluff now. Like
Yeah,
I'm looking for something good. I'm reading books to help me fall asleep. So
yeah. I
I mean,
think
you
reading
won't
is.
even want to tell you I'm embarrassed.
Oh no, I think whatever
Okay.
you pick up and read is great.
Yeah.
And I definitely get into reading slumps as well. I have also stopped tuning into the news quite so much,
Yeah,
Mhm.
just for my own mental health because it's yeah.
yeah.
Um, so does anybody else have anything they want to talk about in relation to I Am Pilgrim? Because it was a big book and it was vast in its scope as well. So I clearly
On
haven't covered everything that there is.
the other, I've picked up this book in bookshops a few times over the last years and thought about buying it, but strangely enough, whenever I picked it up, I've always put it back down again.
Yes.
So I was very glad that we chose this one and I could get to read it.
It's been on my TBR for a while, so I was glad that I finally got round to reading it. I'm glad I read it.
Yeah, I feel the same. I'm glad I read it. And it can go back to Oxfam now, and I'm all right with that.
I recommended this book to so many people and nobody really picked it up. I guess they saw how big it was. And so
Because it's so big.
when
Yeah.
this book actually came with the book group, I went, oh, good. But then I forgot a lot of the details. So it's interesting to hear the details come back.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So do you wish you'd read it, Vera?
No, not really. I don't like this, but it's the style. I don't like these terrorist plots. And it's
Mhm.
not even the length because sometimes I read very long books, but like I said, I like the murder aspect more. I even like the spy things, but like terrorist plots, I don't like it. The action, I also don't enjoy that much. So I'm glad that I joined. At least now I know that everything ended well, that the spy walked away and went to live his life. Yeah,
He did,
no.
yes.
And it turns out his adopted father, left him his modern art that the mother never liked. So he finds that out towards the end of the book. And so he's now vastly and independently wealthy also.
Oh,
So
It's that's
good.
very. I
That's
couldn't
good.
stop thinking of Batman at that point. So, and I wish I hadn't. But once it was in there, I couldn't get rid of it.
But it was very funny with the art because he had to prove he was a good guy to get the art. Um, and bearing in mind, yes, he was saving the world, but some of the things he did to do that. I mean, he shot his boss in the middle of
Mhm.
Red Square, was it?
Yeah, that
Middle of the
was.
day.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the first thing he did.
I read that bit. I was like, okay,
Yeah, it's one way to go.
so one like to be promoted. It was good.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, I'm going to stop the recording unless somebody else has anything they want to say. No, we're all good. Okay.
Not fully about the plot, but I will say I'm quite keen to visit Turkey now after
Oh,
reading a lot about the coastlines and things like that.
It's worth it. So yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't
I
actually understand the sea bit. Can anybody explain that? I thought because when the sea goes out, you can see it.
Oh, the nightclub cavey bit. thing.
Yeah, so is it
I-
underwater? Does water
I
drop
thought there were
into
a
it?
few places where physics got set aside.
Yeah.
The mirror and the photographic mirror was another one. I mean, it was the
Yeah.
idea that the sea rises in the Mediterranean by about 10 foot once a year.
Once a year, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
leap year, obviously twice. But, I made that up. I don't.
And surely if the sea goes into this cave, then they would have been slipping all over because there would have been that
They
green
would. Yeah, they would.
algae all over the place.
Mm.
I did mean to Google actually and see if it was real. Does anybody know if it is?
No, I don't know.
Sounds a bit
Actually,
unbelievable. I
Google.
couldn't figure out how it worked.
It sounds very unbelievable. I'd be a bit scared to go if I was there,
Yes.
but let's find out.
You wouldn't be holding a party with the risk of the sea just splashing straight on top of you, would you?
Health and safety being what it is,
I
I
know.
don't think they'd get to do that now anyway.
No, you can't even get up a ladder now.
No, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Never
I
mind
think
going to
they've
a
stopped
scuba
that in
dive
the
site.
UK now, that where you're not allowed up a ladder.
Wouldn't even happen. Yeah, they wouldn't even be able to send people down there to investigate whether it could happen.
I know. No, it's
Oh, I'm glad Clark brought up the mirror, because that was another kind of segue off tangential point where it's an old mirror and it's silver nitrate, and they happen to use a firework with phosphate or something. You have to know the interactions between silver nitrate, getting an old mirror, and having a special firework. And it happened to go off just at the right time when there were these two people sitting in this room, et cetera, et cetera. But the only place he could get the mirror developed was at the Uffizi. So there's a little side story about how he takes the mirror and goes and they develop it, et cetera, et cetera. There were a lot of different little
Another 100 pages.
the variety of research he must have done for that
Yeah.
book.
Hmm.
Getting images off mirrors, viruses and bacteria and what have you, and
And it's set in different parts of the world, so
yeah,
he has
bodily
to do research
injuries.
for that.
He goes to
Fascinating.
Germany and mhm.
Mm.
But I wonder too is when, and I've said this a thousand times in my life, is where are the editors? Because he has all these different things. And so this type of book, it's okay because I know it's just gonna go on and on and on and on, and then you're gonna have this ending. But I think it's not intended to be a very serious book. And so you can just throw in these things and have the mirror and the fireworks, have the archaeological remains that are exposed once a year. Although I still think I would like to go to Turkey too. And and the things, and he does sort of stereotype the Germans at the factory. And yeah, and he gets to 9/11, and then and he develops the smallpox off the internet. He just happens to be a doctor, and he just happens to order this equipment, and and he relies on the little kid to make sure that it gets picked up, and it's always
Oh, that bit. Yeah. Yeah. Who knows how to ship something internationally using the correct stickers, which is amazing. But yeah, you have to kind of go, it's all right.
There was a lot in there. He did manage to pack a lot in it.
I wasn't offended by any of it though, because I just did that thing where you go, okay, it's fine, because it's either that or you send your flying cat, which equally might have happened or not.
Yes.
Undersea Turkey nightclub, no.
No.
No,
No
I'm
results.
also
Sorry.
Googling. There are
Sorry.
lots of caves with archaeological
Yes.
things, so you can just go there, but not with them.
It's not actually got a functioning nightclub under the sea, which is a very
Oh.
sad thing.
But I don't know, maybe
I
we
could
need
not
to
figure it out
research
when it was
more.
being explained how it works. I just couldn't figure out what he was trying to say. But like you, I just went with it. Yeah, there's this cave that's a nightclub, and there's the sea, and Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Once
that's
a
the
year
trick
they
to getting
switch.
through this book is just to go with it.
Yeah, you need to go with the
Yeah,
flow.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Otherwise,
With
give it
lots
up.
of books. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a really high rating on Goodreads, though, so there's a lot of people that actually just went with it.
Yeah, I liked
I
it because I
enjoyed
just
it.
went with it.
Yeah.
Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Were there things about it that I didn't understand? It was confusing. That's why it took me so long, but I liked it. I went with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
think
liked that it was
generally are.
so unrealistic that it became escapism
Mhm.
without
Yeah.
being fantasy, which is quite a nice little place to sit
Yeah.
for 20 hours.
Yes, it was a long one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stop this. Thank you.